Across more than 2 decades, the Ice Age franchise has generated over $6 billion, spanning 6 theatrical films and a massive catalog of video games. The central premise of these movies is that prehistoric megafauna were locked in a desperate battle to survive erratic and catastrophic shifts in the global climate. Early humans do appear in this universe, but they are relegated to silent cameos or background characters. The real threat is always the weather. But did catastrophic climate change actually kill off the Ice Age megafauna, or is that simply a comforting pop culture myth masking a darker reality? While Hollywood continuously points the finger at the climate, pristine fossil records from the other side of the world tell a highly specific, human-driven story. To test how these extinctions actually happened, we have to look at Pleistocene Sahul. This was a massive single landmass combining ancient Australia, New Guinea, and Tasmania before rising sea levels separated them. Curious, this isolated continent was populated by bizarre, giant megafauna, including animals like Diprotodon, a massive marsupial that weighed up to 3 tons. For decades, scientists debated 2 main suspects for their disappearance: environmental stress caused by a changing climate or the arrival of human hunters. To test the climate theory, we look at this chart. It plots temperature variability using data extracted from the Epica Dome Sea ice core in Antarctica, covering a massive 450,000-year window. Notice this specific period between 60,000 and 40,000 years ago. The line is relatively flat. The data proves the climate was stable during the exact window when the megafauna began to vanish. Because the climate's alibi holds up to rigorous scrutiny, the environmental meltdown theory falls apart. That leaves only one remaining suspect: newly arrived humans. Humans successfully crossed the ocean and spread widely across the Sahul continent somewhere between 45,000 and 50,000 years ago. If we want to trace their impact, we have to deal with a noisy fossil record. This scatterplot shows about 100 dates for Diprotodon fossils. If you look at all this unverified data, the extinctions appear completely staggered and unrelated to human movement. But researchers applied strict reliability tests to these dates, filtering out the bad data. When you drop the contested samples, you are left with a tight cluster of only 23 highly reliable fossil dates. The very last reliable date for Diprotodon is exactly 44,000 years ago. The extinctions cluster precisely along the timeline of human arrival. We see the exact same pattern in other species. Take the modern emu. Paleontologists compared the fossilized eggshells of this surviving ground bird with the eggshells of an extinct giant bird called Genyornis. The comparative eggshell data reveals that Genyornis populations were stable for tens of thousands of years and then abruptly crashed to zero right after the 50,000-year mark. A second line of evidence is found in the soil itself: dung fungi spores. These spores only reproduce in the waste of large herbivores, and around 41,000 years ago, their numbers plummet. Immediately following that drop in dung fungi, the soil records a massive spike in charcoal, indicating sudden, widespread landscape fires. The sequence of events is printed clearly in the dirt. Humans arrived and hunted the large apex herbivores to extinction. Without those giant animals eating the vegetation, highly flammable brush built up across the continent, fueling massive fires that permanently rewired the ecosystem. The rigorous data from Sahul overwrites the Hollywood script. This era was defined by the expansion of a highly effective new apex predator into a pristine environment. Yet, upcoming films like the scheduled 2027 release of Ice Age Boiling Point continue to lean heavily on the idea of climate-driven extinction plots. We prefer the climate narrative because it is deeply comforting. It absolves us of responsibility and taints early humans as mere passengers on a chaotic planet, rather than the drivers of the chaos. But the rigorously filtered fossil record strips away that comfort. The data proves our direct culpability in these ancient mass extinctions. For tens of thousands of years, human expansion has been the primary force rewriting the planet's ecology.